right. Welcome, guys, to the MMOs.com podcast. Episode 167 here. Altay, joined by...
Omer.
All right. And we are back for the podcast. We missed Grindfest Friday once again. It's something we've been missing pretty often recently, but we're here for you on Tuesdays. So what's going on?
Always on Tuesdays. So what's going on this week? I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14, as most of you probably guessed. I am an addict. I have been showering regularly and fapping regularly for those concerned. So I'm not as addicted as I was before. I'm on the last fight of the last 4 fights being added to the game. So almost done basically with no lifing it, and I'll be back to a little more of a sensible schedule where I'm not just literally playing 14 plus hours a day soon. What about you, Altay? What have you been up to?
Well, I am in sunny Vancouver at the moment. Flew in last night. Kind of slightly disrupted my WoW schedule, but not by much. I'm actually kind of burning out a little. Like, I'm just logging in for my checklist now. I'm not like I used to be so addicted I was doing every single world quest. Or not just the 4 you got to do every day for your emissary, but literally every single one on each map. So those days are gone. Like, I'm just kind of burnt out on that.
Cool. Before we start the podcast in our pregame, we were talking a bit about browser strategy games. I think I mentioned the fact that this game called Guns of Glory, a relatively obscure, to me at least, I never even heard about Guns of Glory, but it's another Chinese-developed game by a company called Tap Fun, and it made $215 million in its first year of operation. And every time I read these crazy numbers, it bamboozles me, and I get sad because I read that this game makes more money than like what Final Fantasy 14 makes, like twice as much money as Final Fantasy 14. It's this really obscure, crappy, pay-to-win garbage game. And I think it comes back to a conversation we've had a long time ago about like what kind of games people are interested in. And it's remarkable because these browser strategy games, these mobile strategy games, are actually remarkably successful in the United States. Whereas games like Fate Grand Order, a lot of like Azure Lane, a lot of these waifu collectors are much bigger in Asia than they are in America. So Fate Grand Order makes like 97% of revenue in Japan. It's got really hot waifus, great game. But I know you talk shit about a lot of those games, and you kind of defend. You often have said that Asians have some really shitty taste sometimes, right?
Yes.
So what do you think about what do you think about this though? A lot of Americans prefer to play these awful pay-to-win strategy games, whereas in Japan these games are still they're somewhat big, but they're not as big as they are in America. These games make the most money in America, versus Japan, where all the games like Fate Grand Order and the waifu collectors make more money. I mean, personally, I'm not a huge fan of either genre, right? But I'd much rather play a hot waifu collector, where I can at least like fap to the really hot characters, and I've been playing any of these awful strategy pay-to-win games. What about you, Altay? Which do you prefer?
Look, it's a case of
how do you defend it?
It's a case of pick your poison. So I don't defend it. Just because in my opinion, the Japanese have bad taste with the waifu collectors does not necessarily mean the garbo humans who play mobile games in America or the West have good taste when they pick games like this. So they can both suck for very different reasons, and they do both suck for very different reasons. But I'm glad you mentioned that because I think I have a great way to bridge the East-West divide. Why don't I make a really shitty waifu collecting strategy game?
Boom. Combine it. I like it. Get the best of both worlds.
Instead of Lancers, you got like double Deers. They fight with their breasts, like those are their spears. And then you have like, mages or whatever that are like loincloths. There you go. You can build a base, like a waifu harem.
But you have long criticized that, like you said, Japanese and Asians have really shitty taste. But how do you feel about American taste then? Because American taste is I would say, is equally as bad or worse.
Yes, just a different kind of bad taste. Yes.
Look, I would actually defend the gameplay and the design of a waifu collector.
No, I wouldn't.
Over a strategy game. No, the pay-to-win strategy game is infinitely worse. It is just a garbage concept that's completely unfair. Whoever pays more money wins right from the get-go. Whereas the mobile waifu collectors, for the most part, are largely single-player games, co-op games, basically, where paying money, while it gets you ahead in the game, there's no competition with each other. Whereas strategy games are built completely on pay-to-win. There's no sense of fairness, and it's hot garbage.
Wait, so, okay, to defend that for a moment, right? At least in these games that you're seeing, at least you're paying to win at something. Whereas in the mobile, in those waifu collectors, you could literally open a Google Chrome window and search, let's say Fate Grand Order waifus, and just look at the pictures, and you've accomplished everything you will accomplish in the game. So the fact
you don't have the right mentality for a waifu collector game. Okay, you have to own the waifus. All right.
What? Why? Just
when they're in your possession, there is an implication that you're doing things to them. All right, you have them. They're yours. They're literally called. Get this, Altay, in Fate Grand Order. Your waifus are called your servants.
Your servants. Well,
they're your servants.
Just make a folder on your desktop.
whether the game mentions it or not, we all know what happens to servants, right? You know what servants, their secondary role for female servants are.
Oh boy.
There's an implication. With the game, the beauty is the game never has to say it. Where other fake games kind of have said it, Fake Grand Order doesn't even say it at all. But we all know there's implication. The characters, as they get stronger in the game, they get less clothing as well. So I would defend that quite a bit over the nonsense strategy games we've seen.
No, I wouldn't, because what you're describing, put taste aside, I have a hard time calling that a game, right? At least as bad of a game as these browser games are, your strategy games, at least you're spending $1,000 to destroy the other guy's base, and he literally is set back, right? Like he
Those
loses.
are barely games. They're literally like Excel spreadsheets. There's no game there.
No,
it's an Excel spreadsheet with a shitty UI on top of it.
Yes, but here's the thing: by spending money, you are reducing the Excel spreadsheet value of the other person's base. Like he goes from 1,000 to 800 on the Excel spreadsheet.
I don't understand why you can. So in order to be a game, it's got to have some kind of open PvP conflict. Like World of Warcraft, there's no like full loop PvP. When you kill someone in WoW, you don't get anything for it. If you kill someone in a lot of MMORPGs, you usually get nothing for it either, or they don't lose anything.
I think an online game especially has to have some kind of win state, and when you imply a win state, there must also be a lose state, right? You can't win if you can't lose.
Well, in Fake Grand Order or any of these waifu collectors, you can not defeat the enemy, and you got to keep trying until you beat them.
Well, that's like a neutral then. You don't actually lose, do you? Do you ever go backwards?
Not really. No.
Okay,
you lose stamina maybe for trying. So there's kind of a backwards thing over there.
But that's a good point, though. How important do you think it is to have, in a game, to have a lose state? Because, in my opinion, a game is different than like a Netflix show or something, in the extent that there is a lose state. Because winning has no value if there's not also something called losing, where you go backwards.
Well, I mean, I'm 100% with you on that, which is why I think a lot of games have kind of shied away too much from the lost state, where games have been trying to coddle players a bit too much. And I think it's the worst thing you can do, because you can make games easier, right? And I'm not against the concept of MMORPGs and gaming as a whole getting easier, because even though I don't like games getting easier, I think it makes the genre more accessible. And clearly, every game has done it for a reason. It works. It resonates with players, right? But when you start eliminating the lost state, where there's no penalty for something, I think that sends really weird signals to players and just kind of defeats the purpose of what a game is. You have to be able to lose. Everything should have a decent consequence in a game.
But with that in mind, I don't even want to get to MMOs. We're talking about specifically about these games, these strategy games, these mobile games. And like you said, I think a lot of these Japanese games that, by the way, are very successful, so they're doing a good job at whatever they're trying to do. I think, as you said, a lot of them are single-player games for all intents and purposes, with the possibility of recruiting a random person's character to help your party, right? Mm-hmm. That's the extent of multiplayer in these games for the most part, right?
For the most part, yeah.
So I mean, at that point, I don't even know what I'm paying for, because I'm not paying for a game. I'm not interacting with other players.
The single player games are games, by the way. No. And there's some co-op elements.
Well, yeah, but a single player game where you continuously are asked to make microtransaction payments, I feel is like...
You don't have to. You can play the game as a free-to-play user.
I understand, but the fact that they're making so much money clearly implies that people are paying.
Yeah, because people are paying because they want their waifus. It's remarkable, because the games like Fake Grand Order, you don't even have to pay to actually beat the game. In fact, you can be a free... There are people who completed the hardest content in Fake Grand Order with basically using only 3-star characters in the game, like just regular dudes in the game. So paying is completely optional, and it shows that people are... The difference between, I guess, the mobile strategy games and Fake Grand Order, people are paying for the advantage in mobile strategy games, but people are paying for the waifus in Fake Grand Order. You are paying almost purely for the waifus.
Yeah, which, I mean, to me, at that point, I don't feel like you're paying for a game. You're just paying for those GIFs or JPEGs.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird to me.
But I think the lost state is very important for MMORPGs as well. I think MMORPGs as a whole, have really, while they've gotten easier on the high end in difficulty, they've also kind of removed their lost state. Though you've said you've been playing a lot of World of Warcraft, and repair costs are actually quite a bit higher this season. This expansion, it feels really high. So there's actually a bit of a loss over there. You said after every night of raiding, you got some decent repairs to take care of.
Oh yeah, I was actually shocked, because for the past 14 years, I've been hearing from people that WoW is getting easier, it's casual, it's nonsense, yada yada. And obviously they have a lot of features that make it a lot more accessible today. Mm-hmm. But I was surprised at the fact that the repair costs were still so high relative to the money you earn by making gameplay features. Like I know in Final Fantasy you're very wealthy because of your gambling situation. Mm-hmm. But if you're an average player who just plays the game, you kill the orcs or whatever, you're just playing the game, you're gonna if you wipe for one night of raiding, you're gonna have to spend the next day, all day, grinding quests, grinding mobs, just to make up the gold you lost. Like it's not it's not an inconsequential amount of gold. You will have to spend a day dedicated to making gold so you can raid that night.
I think that's really good for World of Warcraft. I think Final Fantasy 14 quite has that. There's almost no penalty for losing. Your gear gets broken as well, but it costs almost nothing to repair it. I mean, no one's that poor in the game where repair costs are an issue. Yeah. It's unfortunate because I think it is good to have a gold sinks like that in MMORPGs.
And to be fair, I don't know how it will play out later in the expansion, but right now, people are wiping to the new content. It's going to get easier and easier as people get better geared. But right now, people are wiping and people are spending a lot of money on repairs.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk a bit about what makes, I think, MMORPGs very special and magical things. And it sounds kind of cheesy, but I was playing Final Fantasy 14 the other night, and it kind of hit me as well. Because I was essentially just running around, hanging out with two friends in the game, right? And we're basically in some like story zone, just kind of just chilling. And some random person walks by, is doing their quest, and I start throwing snowballs at them in the game, right? Because there's an emote called like /throw. If you're standing in snow, you'll throw a snowball at them. So I start throwing a few snowballs at them. I get their attention. I just start randomly talking to this guy, right? I'm like, hey, this random guy that's doing this quest, right? He's like some low-level character. He's just doing his thing, right? I'm like, listen, if you can jump from this tower, I point to a tower. I say, if you can jump from on the top of that tower to this building, all right, in one try, I'll give you like 1 million gil in the game, right? And this guy's like, hell yeah, let's do it. So I take him to the top of the tower. He runs to the top. And he tries jumping, and he misses, so he doesn't get his 1 million gil. And I'm like, all right, you were really close, but you couldn't do it. But I'll tell you what, I'll give you a chance to win 5 million gil now, right, in the game, which is actually a lot of money in Final Fantasy 14. So, yeah, I'll do it, right? So I take him somewhere where he's got to do these other challenges, and of course he fails. I make very difficult challenges in the game that are possible, and I'm having fun with this guy to just show him like do this shit, and then we essentially like us like four just start randomly doing shit together, like purely organically, which has nothing to do with the gameplay in Final Fantasy 14. Purely this emergent social experience, like interaction just happened. And that's not something I've seen in any other genre of games, where you can just literally be doing like nothing in a persistent world and just bump into somebody and just randomly do shit together. And I had a lot of fun. This guy had a lot of fun too. He was hanging out with us. I had my friends list, so now I'm going to talk with this guy later. But I feel like this is a uniquely MMORPG experience, which you're not going to have anywhere else. And magical moments like that, where you're not just doing quote unquote gameplay, is I think what makes like really good for that. And World of Warcraft is really good for that as well. I think one of the reasons World of Warcraft has done really well is because of all the shit you can do in the game outside of core gameplay, and has led to these emergent experiences and these emergent social interactions. Now you can't do that in League. You can't do that in Overwatch. When I'm playing Overwatch, when I'm playing League, when I'm playing Dota, when I'm playing CS:GO, I'm playing purely CS:GO. There's nothing else happening. There's no chance to do anything else besides play the game as defined. And the beauty of MMORPGs is they aren't defined. Your goal isn't to kill the raids. There are people that play the game, plenty of people that never even raid the game. Some people purely collect pets, people purely do crafting, purely level up alts, purely play for story reasons. The beauty of MMORPGs, there is no goal. There is no like design element that says you have to do this. You can always do all this other shit. And whether that's just and the social elements are really great too.
I had a very similar, not quite like that, but the tension of the open world I think is so important because in WoW I have I'm in the war mode, which is PvP enabled, and I'll run into someone. I have to do a quest. I have to kill this monster, and there'll be an alliance member who's the opposite faction killing the monster first. And when he sees me coming, he'll move back a little. He's scared, because he's like fighting a mob. He's half health, but I'll wave at him like, okay, it's fine. Like finish it off. I'll wave at him, then I'll start nuking the monster to help him, and he'll back off again. He thinks I'm nuking him. Then he realizes I'm helping him. Right? I killed him. He kills the monster. He gets his quest done. He waves back at me, and he walks off. And then I start killing the monster.
Altay. An enemy alliance player was doing some shit on your server and you didn't kill him when you had a chance, when you could have ganked him with the monster. What the hell's wrong with you?
Sometimes I gank, sometimes I kill him, right? But like the fact.
What do you mean sometimes? You should always kill him. Why should you ever help this asshole?
Because because I want to see that reaction, because he thought I was gonna attack him, but then he realized I was attacking the monster, so he was like grateful and relieved, and I could just imagine. And
afterwards, you should just kill him to surprise him. Like you help him, right? And he starts bowing and waving at you. Boom, blast his ass. Right?
Sometimes I probably would, but my point is, I'm on the receiving end of that too. Sometimes, I'm fighting a monster, I see two alliance guys come by, and they'll wait for me to kill the monster rather than killing me when they could, and I'm just it keeps you on the edge of your seat in a way. It keeps it keeps you focused on the game. So often in games, even MMORPGs these days, I'm playing at 5% brain capacity, right? I'm watching a YouTube video, I'm like this, and because nothing matters, right? But the fact that if you're in open world in the PvP, you have to actually focus and pay attention. It really keeps you engaged, and a lot of games just don't do that these days, especially single player games where it doesn't matter.
I think Zen Exhaust is something really great. Before I get to that, I want to say, Altay, you're all about this immersion in MMORPGs, right? And you are playing for the Horde faction and a member of the enemy alliance who's literally, they've been murdering the orc children, all right? Slaying the Tauron youth. And you are just laying them off easy. You're not even attacking them?
I disagree. I think, if your favorite war movie, right, whatever it is that there's always a scene where, let's say, one side surprises the other and catches them off guard, and they're not armed even, and they just stare up at, like, the German soldier stares up, and like the one American guy like shakes his gun. He wants to shoot but he can't, and the guy runs away. Like he lets him live.
That's some pussy shit, Altay.
No,
you trying to tell me
it's
that's
human.
Pussy shit?
No, it's human. It's human. It's easy to shoot a guy who's got a gun, right? But if you catch a guy in his underwear,
easy frags. What are you talking about? You jump on that shit. You go boom, baby.
I mean, sometimes you do. It depends on your if you're in a rush or something. But
I've seen it happen way too often because when I was playing WoW too, I always saw people not kill each other in WoW, which is really weird because like when I'm playing WoW, I'm gonna kill them every single time. Fuck those guys. If I could ruin their day, I'm gonna do it. The game is built. The game is called Battle for Azeroth. And you know what you're doing, Altay? You're not battling for Azeroth. You're going against the principles of the game.
Which I think is, by the way, we had this. I don't want to go back into this, but I think if you're playing a game the way it's meant to be played, you're just like a robot. Like you might as well not be playing. So the whole point of a game, MMORPG especially, is to kind of create your own reality around it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like I said, I don't always spare them, but the times I do, and I observe their reaction, it's very satisfying for me.
Mm-hmm. So Zenexile made a really good comment. Probably the best thing I read from Zenexile. He's a character in our chat, but he said a great MMORPG is a place to go, not a thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that really hits home. I think because if I want a thing to do, I don't think MMORPG is always great for that. But it's a great place to go and hang out and be in this world where you see your friends. You can do there's no set objectives, and I want that to be an MMORPG. It's almost like I view almost like MMORPGs very often as like Discord, but with like avatars and a lot more interactive shit to do. So I still think MMORPGs are the perfect medium to be both Discord and gaming combined, essentially. And that's a place to go is the best way I can possibly nail it. And I think World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14, any of the big MMORPGs do that really well. However, I think it's a big problem with games like Vindictus, games like Critica, games like Soulworker, where those aren't really places to go. Those are things to do. They're much more rigidly defined games where, there is no persistent world. It's purely like a level-based game. You beat level 1, you go level 2, then level 3. It's very linear. It's even though MMORPGs have linear progression as well, it's kind of in a persistent world. And I think that makes it much more, of a place to go. Whereas I'd feel like games like Critica, DFO, and whatnot with the instance dungeons, persistent hubs aren't real MMORPGs. They're like MMO lights, if anything.
Do you read Nahu Sir Ujano's comment? That was very cool. Lol, it reminded me of when I was playing solo PUBG. I took a car faster than other player, and instead of crushing him, I gave him a ride to the nearest loot zone. So can you imagine the tension for both players in that game? Here's a person you can't really, you don't know who he is, you don't know his intentions. He has to kill you at the end of the match, right? But this sliver of humanity he showed by giving the guy a ride to where he can get guns, and then he drove, knowing that he will potentially confront him one-on-one at the end, right? It's a beautiful moment. Like that's like a cinematic moment. I know Canara said earlier in Saving Private Ryan, the I guess the good the group of people who spared the German, it came to bite them in the ass later, right? But that's not the point. The point is the humanity of it. And I can just imagine a beautiful PUBG match like that, where the guy you help out in the beginning, you end up having to face him one-on-one at the end. Room-to-room combat. You're both just sweating. That kind of connection you only make in that kind of rivalry and that kind of competition.
In all my time of playing PUBG, I've never seen someone from some other guy stop by and pick somebody up to get out of the red, get out of the blue into the zone. Because in a situation like that, I would be too tempted to just kill the guy and take his vehicle, even if he's being nice to me. Look, that's my instant reaction. But it's really cool that actually that can happen, right?
Yeah.
And that's another reason I think PUBG is a really interesting take on FPS games and from a game design perspective, right? Whereas when you're playing Counter-Strike, you have a very rigid goal. You just literally cannot win at any given. You can't let some guy walk by. Like nobody in Counter-Strike is going to see an enemy, wave to him, and let him walk by. It's never going to happen because the game isn't designed like that. Whereas PUBG it creates a lot of emergent experiences between players and skirmishes, and you don't have to kill that guy right then and there to win the game, and you can still help this guy. And I think that's one of the magical reasons why Battle Royale games have done so well over the years. It creates a new dynamic of gameplay where it's not just following the same rigid rules. It's more of a sandbox FPS game where there is an objective, but how you get to the objective at the end is kind of up to you, which is really cool.
Speaking of PUBG, I want to get into these numbers a little because I still have friends that love PUBG. They play it a lot, but I have rarely seen a game besides like Bless or something plummet the way PUBG has been plummeting. So if you look at their current players online, 285,000, which is still not bad. I think it's number 3 on Steam at the moment. But compare that to just like look, this is the past few months right here. So basically every month this year, they've just been bleeding players like double digits every month. It is insane. It's an insane bleed. They went from a peak of 3 million a day to just barely over 1 million a day, which 1 million a day peak is still insanely high. But if this trend continues, just for a few more months, it's gonna hurt. It's insane. Like, what is going on here?
I think you mentioned that Fortnite still is adding players. They had like 90 million or 81 million monthly active users, so they're still growing.
Yeah, almost 80 million. So 70 something million. They said they had monthly active players.
Yeah. And what's remarkable is the Battle Royale genre is it still has legs, I think, because we've seen just this last week 2 new Battle Royale games launched. 2, not 1, 2. One's called Ring of Elysium. It's very much like PUBG. It's by Tencent Games. I think we showed off before, but the player base numbers are surprisingly strong on Ring of Elysium. There are about 15,000 players online. It's peaking 24 hours at 32,000, which is pretty incredible for a newly launched Battle Royale game. It's by Tencent Games, so it's got a pretty big backer behind it. But in its core, it very much plays like PUBG. I think there's only one. There's a few key differences, which makes it a little bit different. Unlike Fortnite and PUBG, where you kind of start with an airplane and you jump off somewhere. In Ring of Elysium, you basically get to pick where you spawn. There's a map, and you just choose which grid you want to spawn in. And too many players can't spawn in one spot, though. So you can see it's an occupied grid, so you can't spawn there either. So everyone just chooses where they spawn. And there's like 3 different ways for mobility. You can get a glider, you can get like a snowboard, you get like a mountain pick. If you're the mountain pick, you can climb mountains. With the glider, you can glide off mountains. Snowboard, you go faster in the snow. So everyone got some like built-in mobility through that system. So you get to choose where you spawn. The core gameplay is similar. You basically want to be the last one standing, but when the map gets really small, the goal of the game it becomes to get to the escape helicopter, get to the chopper. Whoever gets to the chopper wins the game, which is really cool. So it's not just you could actually win by killing nobody, which is really neat because it kind of reinforces that emergent gameplay we talked about earlier. You can actually win this game by killing nobody. So make it to the chopper and you win.
I haven't played this game yet. I know you have. I just read about it, and you're right. That's the one thing I really picked up on. I'm glad that finally the genre is going somewhere new because I feel like there's so much more potential than what we've seen in PUBG and Fortnite, where you just literally last man standing. There's so many opportunities for co-op stuff. So that's really cool. Actually, we talked about a Prison Break battle royale. That'd be great. We can talk about it later sometime.
Yeah, but it's just really cool that you can actually win a game now, but without killing anybody. Whereas with PUBG, the optimal place to always shoot somebody, right? But you could conceivably play a solo game of Ring of Elysium, bump into another player, and just not kill him, right? Because killing him doesn't necessarily get you close to the win. You get his loot, obviously, which helps. You just have to make it to that chopper when it spawns in the last place. And it's not on a circle either. So the map doesn't get closed, doesn't close in the way it does in PUBG and Fortnite in a circle format. Instead, just areas of the map get not quite in a circle, but connected areas of the map get snowstorms. So you have to get out of those areas closer into one location to where the chopper is going to spawn. It's a really cool concept of Battle Royale, I think, and it runs really well as well. So if you never played it, and you like PUBG, maybe give Ring of Elysium a try. It's like the free-to-play version. It doesn't cost any money, and it's something a little bit different. Kind of mix things up a bit.
That's right. It's free to play. PUBG is still not free to play, which is I think amazing. And I know we talked about this before we streamed somewhere, but do you know how many accounts for PUBG have been banned for hacking? Remember, PUBG accounts cost money, so they're not free.
Yeah, it's like $20 a pop, right?
Yeah, 30. But it's on sale. It goes on sale for 20, I think. I'm not sure where it's at right now. But so they have banned 13 million accounts. Can you believe that?
Holy shit! 13 million accounts banned for hacking. Let's say each of those. Let's say each of those were for $20. It's $30 actually. So 13 million times 20. That's 260 million USDs worth of money was spent on accounts that got banned. That is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I'm showing here the top 50 best-selling games of all time. So number 50 on the list of top 50 is 15.6 million. Pokemon Black and White, and it's probably two games in one, right? Black and White.
Yeah.
But so this only goes up to 50, but 13 million is not far off this 15. So you got to put it this way: just accounts banned on PUBG equals probably the 70th best selling game of all time.
Oof.
And that will climb. I honestly think they will obviously ban. If they ban 2 million more accounts, that will be in the top 50 best-selling games. Just the number of banned PUBG accounts.
You would think the fact that the game costs money would deter cheating, right? And
Yeah.
like obviously, like that's so many accounts that got banned for cheating, and people keep doing it. What is this drive to cheat in an online game? Like, yeah, maybe I'm older now, a little older, a little wiser. I don't really care about cheating in an online game. It defeats the purpose. But like, who are the people cheating in games? Are they 12-year-olds? Are they 13-year-olds? Because I can't see it appealing to like adults.
I think
Like, what is the mindset of someone that cheats in PUBG or wants to cheat in PUBG? Again, it's fun to dick around with, but that fun is like such an immature like sense of fun that like I had as well when I was like 14. All right, but like I don't know, after like 18, like what's the point? It has to be younger people.
Yeah.
My guess is that the average cheater in any of these online games has to be like 90% would be less than 18.
Or to be fair, we were cheating in high school, so 18 and under. So it wasn't just
we were botting in Maple Story. All right, that was a
hacking.
That's
cheating. That's cheating.
That we were getting something.
Counter-Strike wall hacks.
Yeah, we're like 16 probably.
Okay, so yeah, but I think you're right. People under 18 and under are probably the majority of this group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's actually another big battle royale game as well. Just launched this last week. I'm surprised with how many people got banned cheating in PUBG as well. We don't see a bigger problem in a lot of free-to-play games. I mean, Fortnite, I'm sure there's cheaters there too. But I mean, I just haven't seen as big of a problem from my experience in Fortnite.
That's a good question. How exactly is Fortnite fighting hackers so well? Because
it's free.
They're both on the same engine, right? Unreal. They're both. One is free, like you said, Fortnite. So presumably it should attract more potential cheaters. I don't know. My only guess is it's not out in China yet, and China is where a lot of these hacks are made.
That's where all the cheaters come from. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I linked to Battlerite Royale on Steam charts. This is Battlerite's take on Battle Royale. And I think it's actually a little bit different as well. It's really cool to see a different kind of Battle Royale game. It's not just another FPS game. It's basically just Battlerite with all the characters and the gameplay and the skill shots and just kind of mixed into a Battle Royale. And I think it's cool because it's different. It's not just another FPS game. And I think the Battlerite core gameplay is really fun. So it's doing really well, too, considering it's a buy-to-play game. It costs, it's on sale for $18 right now. The game will be, just like original Battlerite, it will be free to play once it launches. It is a bit weird that Battlerite Royale launched as a separate game, right? It's not like just the same, it's not a part of Battlerite. It's a separate game that you'll launch. And I think that they did it so they can make money off it, right? Because they're selling it for $20.
I think that was a huge mistake. I think a couple companies have been making this mistake. For example, Paladins launched Realm Royale as a separate standalone game. And it was popular for a while when it first launched, but then it plummeted. And I think MapleStory is making a similar mistake. MapleStory 2, they launched a separate client for the Battle Royale mode. Big mistake.
I think it was only during like pre-play though. I think now I'm pretty sure you can just do it in game. That was like a special thing for before the game officially launched. You could just dick around with that, you know?
Okay. Either way, I think it was pointless. And I think even with this Battlerite Royale, I think it's not going to serve them well. I think it's better to just have it in one client. I don't know why they feel the need to do it this way.
Watching Battlerite Royale looks really cool though. Like it's just literally Battlerite where everything is like individual skill shots with the characters. It's just a MOBA meets a Battle Royale game, and it's doing. I'm surprised that they sold so many copies again to fill up like 4,000 players online right now. Daily peak of 6,200 for a game that will be free to play at launch. It just costs money in early access.
So I haven't tried this one yet, and I'm kind of reluctant to pay that because I think I purchased Battlerite.
I did too.
Yeah, which I didn't regret. It was a good game, but I feel like they're asking for my money again, which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, I feel like if you bought the game, you should be able to play it, and if not, then maybe sell to people that don't. But then they want to make money. They did it because they wanted to monetize their game. I mean, in 6 months, they said that they want to leave early access within 6 months. It'll be free to play then. So if you want to play and you don't want to spend money, you got to wait about 6 months.
Well, looks like I'm waiting.
Nice. Probably the same for me too. Even though the game looks really cool, and I've had a lot of value out of Battlerite. It's a game I've played for. Check my playtime in Battlerite. I played for 167 hours in Battlerite, which is not bad. Not a bad chunk of change. Better than, more than most people on my friends list.
Indeed. All right. Well, I got a quick Kickstarter story actually.
All right, let's hear it. I love Kickstarter stories. I love Kickstarter MMOs.
So this is one of the most beautiful things I've read this year so far. There's a game called I believe it's called Limit Theory. Okay, so an infinite procedural space game. The guy 6 years ago, he raised over 100,000, I think near $200,000, and he promised some kind of game like basically procedure generated exploration game, kind of like that. What's that game? No Man's Sky, right? So he promised something like No Man's Sky, and 6 years later, he couldn't do it. He gave up. And this Kickstarter post about his basically admitting defeat is a well worth reading. This is one of the best things I read. A few lines here. Basically, the story is when he started, he was very optimistic. He thought he could do anything. He could make any game. Give me money, I got it. But as the years went on, he realized how hard it was to make a game. Right?
Wow, what a surprise! Making a
Exactly.
game is not easy. Not anyone can just put a Kickstarter up, raise some money, and slap together a game. Whoa.
Yeah, and it's just a good story of the fall of man, like his own, he's kind of hubris, right? He's struck down by his own hubris. When he started 6 years ago, he thought, well, these other companies that make games, right? They have hundreds of people working on it, right? They have composers, artists, 3D renderers, and developers, coders, project managers, executives, people who, HR departments, right? Yeah, you know what? I don't need all that. I can do it myself, on the internet. Hey, and obviously he couldn't, right? And just reading his emotional break, he's literally having an emotional breakdown in this post. Like if you read this post, this guy is having a total breakdown when he kind of realizes the fact he's human, he's fallible, and it's really worth reading. And let me just find this one quote that I liked.
This was supposed to be an MMO, right?
Yeah, well, some kind of, I don't know, I'm not even sure about that.
What kind of online game?
Oh man, I can't find the quote now. Do you remember that quote I linked to you?
Yeah, let me find it for you. All right, I'll give it out loud. The quote you sent me earlier, and I thought was really powerful as well. It says, he said, "No matter how hard I try, it's not enough to bring LT to fruition. And this pattern of failure has evicted all self-confidence and hope from my mind, leaving only doubts, anxiety, and despair."
Beautiful. And then it goes on from there. Some days I think to myself, quote, how absurd that a game should make me feel this way. And I realize just how unfit I have become to build a source of joy.
Damn, this guy's completely defeated.
Yeah.
Now, real talk though, that money he raised from the Kickstarter, is that all gone?
It's all, well, not only is that money gone, in the article he states he bankrupted himself personally. He put 6 years of his life into this game. Right? He depleted all his personal resources, and he feels this great sense of shame and this weight of failure on him. And it is just, when I say beautiful read, I don't mean like it's a good thing, right? Beautiful as in like how powerful this read was to me, and like how you can his emotions from it really ooze out.
So it's almost like you don't even feel that bad that people back the game aren't getting refunds, right? But like this guy bankrupted himself funding this game as well, so he really believed in it too, which I think is a big positive too. Like he went all in on it too. So if he had just blown his founders' monies and that was it, I'd still call him an asshole. But he really, he's clearly naive, and he believed in his story. He thought he could do it, and he bankrupted himself in the process. So even though no one's going to get refunds, at least this guy got his own punishment anyway. This guy, he spent 6 years of his life trying to do something, and he spent a ton of his own money doing it too. So it's just, unfortunate. I like Zenexil's comment. Altay sounds aroused reading this poor man's failure.
It kind of was it was interesting, like to get a glimpse of like this, like how often do you see somebody in this state of like just raw self-reflection, right? So there's another quote from it. When I began this project, I felt that anything was possible. Here now, at the end, I must swallow the painful reality that I too am human. I am limited by time, I'm limited by finances, and I am limited by mental and emotional stamina. So this is like honestly, it's probably a very profound moment of like self-development and growth for this guy, because I think most people don't go through life and never having like this kind of self-reflection. And honestly, I believe a lot of these Kickstarters have only two ways to end up. Either like this guy, where you're going to be honest, and I was way over my head, I was just full of myself, I had no idea what I was doing, and I am just a broken man now, and it will take me time to recover and learn from this. Or I think you go the route of Star Citizen, where you never admit this, right? And then your only choice to admitting to bowing to reality is to just never bow to reality, just ignore reality, and then you kind of fold in on yourself, and you become like that Star Citizen guy, where you just go around, raising all this money, scamming people, and just keeping this ruse going for as long as possible. And then you become some kind of like crazy cult leader because you convince your psyche of unreality, and that powers you to actually keep lying to everyone, because if you fool yourself, you can fool anyone, right? So those are only two paths for Ref. This guy, self-realization that he can't do it, or the path of just complete delusion into lunacy of Star Citizen until you just blow up.
Yikes. And I think we're going to see a lot more people arrive at this conclusion. Like you said, it's just really bizarre to think that like people can slap together a Kickstarter page and raise like $100,000 and make a game when there's hundreds of employees to make these games. Like you said, the HR department, the artists, the composers, the programmers, the designers, the assistant designers, the producers. It takes so much work to make one of these games. It's absolutely insane that people can think they can, especially an MMORPG, one of the most complex, so many moving parts in an MMORPG. You make a simple FPS game, put up Unreal Engine, and you can make a simple FPS game pretty easily. But to make a complex machine like an MMORPG or an online MMO with procedural generation and stuff, what this guy was trying to do, it's an enormous undertaking. I'm looking at actually Star Citizen's page. They're up to 195 million right now. They are quickly growing up there. I think they're raising 1.5 million to $2 million a month. They're gonna break that $200 million mark soon.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see, and I cannot wait for the stories of when this project blows up on its face.
I mean, I'm still not optimistic on Star Citizen. As I mentioned, no one plays the shooter modes of Star Citizen. It's pretty dead. Yeah, because the shooter mode was always supposed to be like some quote unquote module. It was never supposed to be the main game. It was always teased as the main game being this persistent universe, this really cool persistent universe. And they've added these like half-assed like shooter games. They've added like this dogfighting mode and the shooter, but that was never the meat of the game. It's like saying, I want to make an MMORPG, which is actually pretty funny because this is what Asher Creation has done to a degree as well so far. Their beta showed off their PvP mode, which looked really cool, right? And the alpha one was basically just showing off PvP. And the PvP looks cool, but that's not an MMORPG. This is like this arena PvP thing they set up, this battleground. That's not an MMORPG. That's like something else, The MMORPG component with all these other things attached to it are the cool things, Having a persistent world Star Citizen with the dogfighting, with the FPS gameplay, with everything else is the cool part, not just those pieces by themselves. It's like say you made an MMORPG and you're going to show it off, and all you're showing off is like pet battling in World of Warcraft. Like, no, it's cool to have pet battling in World of Warcraft, but that's not the game. That's not the bread and butter. Just like what we've seen from Star Citizen isn't the bread and butter. It's a persistent universe that puts it all together as the bread and butter. So I would love to see that happen with Star Citizen. And until we see the bread and butter, I've been wholly disappointed with what I've seen.
Oh yeah, and somewhere these seems like at least you're still reserved in terms of a potential game coming out. I lost faith in that one because after watching that one video with the project management software they were using or whatever, they made a trailer out of that, and that's when I lost faith in it.
I don't know. It just seems like the development of Star Citizen has become its own spectacle. They do like these. They have like 10 different YouTube video series for like the bug squisher, this artist guy, and like there's so much like production around like the making of Star Citizen, and how slow things are going. And like they made a spectacle out of this, right? And they've had like 4 conventions already. Like there's so much happening but we haven't seen the bread and butter happen yet. Nobody wants to play a 50-player shooter that's not what's cool about Star Citizen. That was never the cool concept of the game. That was literally nothing. It would be cool to have those within the persistent universe of them by themselves or nothing. And that's why for a long time I've never been too impressed with what I've seen for the game, because they never shut off the cool parts of the game about the persistent universe actually working.
Yep.
And I'm also, with you on like both with Asher Creation, with Chronicles of Illyria, like they can show off parts of the game until I see I'm actually more optimistic on Asher Creation than Chronicles of Illyria, for example, because they raised a lot of money and they've hired a lot of people. It's a much bigger scale than this limit theory guy, so they could maybe still make something happen. But until I see the actual persistent world MMORPG, I'm not sold on any of this.
Yeah, actually, I really think a lot of these early Kickstarters ruined it for everyone else, because the default mode of a lot of people now is just super skepticism, super cynicism. And it's unfortunate, but it's based on a pattern that we've observed.
Indeed. That limit theory guy though, what a powerful letter. I'm gonna skim through that. I'm gonna read through that later.
Yeah, I really recommend you guys read through that Kickstarter thing I posted. It's really good read. And humbling. I mean, I respect this guy. Yes, he blew 180,000, but it appears he tried, and that's all he promised you. It's a Kickstarter. He's not promising you a game. He's promising you the project he's gonna try. So he blew the money. He tried. He's done. I don't think he should feel ashamed about it. He's wiped.
He tried.
Yeah, he should just dust himself off and live and learn.
All right, let's move on a bit. We got a little bit of Lootbox news. This Lootbox controversy and whatnot has been pretty much been the topic of discussion for a lot of gamers for a while. We got some news out of good old Ireland. All right, they're EU, right? Ireland.
They are. Yes.
And they basically said loot boxes are not gambling.
Are not.
I think it's gonna be this. And I think it's gonna be the it's gonna be the default position, I think, for the rest of the world. I mean, remember, I think a couple weeks ago you said EA basically doubled down on their loot boxes in like what
Belgium.
was it, Belgium? In
Hmm.
Belgium, yeah. So I don't know. The outrage over loot boxes, I think, was a one and done kind of thing because we've still seen, I just don't see it going away.
I hope it does. I don't know what if it will or not, but I really hope. This is one of the few times where a small nudge by the government can, I think, can have profound positive impacts on a whole industry. So whether legally it's gambling or not, I don't really care. If the government just decides it's gambling and bans it, it will force a lot of smart people currently in the gaming industry to, instead of focusing on loot box geared content, to focus on actual content. And if we have to use the hammer of government to get that, I'm okay with that.
I think the way it's done in Overwatch is like almost like. Also, I think the most successful games don't really use loot boxes either. I mean, but they use gotchas, right? But like
Same thing.
a lot of
Gotcha. Like,
Western games don't really do gotchas, right? And Americans, like in Europe and the US, right? Gotchas have never really taken off anyway.
well, why wait until it's too late? I mean, look how much money Fate Grand Order is making, right?
Yeah, $1 billion a year, baby. Sweet
And
moolah.
it's like 98% in Japan, right?
Yeah.
So what? So obviously it works. So one day EA or Activision Blizzard is gonna wake up and be like, wait a minute, why are we spending like all this money making GTA 6 right in development, where it's gonna be this amazing game with like cutting edge graphics, it's gonna have all these features, all these different gameplay elements, online play, persistent, whatever housing, whatever GTA 6 is gonna have, right? Mod support on all this crap. Why are we doing this? Let's make a shitty mobile game where you pay $1 and you open a garage door and inside is either like a stupid broken sedan or like a Ferrari. But it costs $1 per try and there's a 1 in a billion chance to get a Ferrari, or otherwise you get like a Ford Focus. Like people are gonna spend $1 million opening that stupid garage doors and do gotchas, right? But if the government just bans that, we can continue to get these amazing great games.
We've been able to get great games in the West without banning it. Like, again, Overwatch, I think, is a beautiful example of how a responsible, good loot box system works. Where you got everything for free. You buy the game. After you buy the game, you get all the content in the game is free. All the gameplay is free. All the maps, all the heroes, and you can just choose to get cosmetics. And and the game is generous with loot box as well. So it just seems like
No, I understand, but I think it's only because Activision is too embarrassed to go all the way, whole hog. But every year that's in your road.
I do think though for sure a company like Activision Blizzard is just they do think about their image when they design their cash shop, whereas you see like a lot of mobile games, a lot of Chinese games, like the game we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, that something of glory, that random strategy game is maybe a company called Tap Fun. Do you think Tap Fun gives any f's about their image? They're this Chinese company that churns out these mobile strategy games left and right. Tap Fun doesn't care. Tap Fun, Beijing technology company, gives no fucks about their image. They just want to make
Well,
that fast money.
But then what happens when a company like Tap Fun is big enough to buy Activision Blizzard and then just milk the shit out of their IPs in a shameless way?
Then we as gamers become sad.
I mean, it's possible. Like, just look how much money Fake Grand Order is making, right? It can literally. How much is it making a year? Like $1 billion or something?
Billion dollars a year in revenue. Yeah.
Okay. And what is the total market cap of like Square Enix?
Like 4 or 5 billion.
So in 6 years, Fake Grand Order.
If it's all profit, yes,
Yeah.
they could theoretically they end up buying.
What,
the
like,
other
like a
company, yeah.
leveraged buyout of Square Enix and then milk all their crap. Like, so the point is, there's no reason to wait until it's like it's done. I think now it's time to fight against this nonsense before it invades the West the way it's invaded Japan. Like, why wait until it's too late?
But then it goes back to the conversation of like how companies are allowed to monetize their games, right? With like free to play, and can you like in a free to play game, right? Are they allowed to sell power? Like forget loot boxes. Let's say we get rid of loot boxes, right? Can they just outright sell like power in a game? Like I think if Fake Grand Order just like got rid of their loot boxes, for example, and just literally sold the
Total
5 stars like $500.
Yeah, I'd be better. Like imagine there's a list, a store, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star. The 1 stars are like $1, 2 stars are like $5, 3 stars are like $20, 4 stars are like 100, 5 stars are like $250. That I think would be better, because you know what you're getting, you know what you're buying, you can play the game first, you can see how it is. Well, if I had this, I'd be having this much fun. Let me try it. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. Instead of this nonsense where people are just like on this never-ending string, trying to get the next thing.
Hey, but you wouldn't want to regulate like selling like powerful weapons in like video games, like just pay to win
No,
stuff, like fairness stuff.
When the government gets involved in something, it should be in a very broad and simple move. So it should be a simple move that covers a broad range. It shouldn't be a micromanaging. So I'm definitely not for the government saying, well, like power, you should only charge $10 for this store, $20 for this thing. No, they should just ban the gambling element, the randomness element, right, of the reward for money.
Again, it goes back. I actually like the randomness. I think it makes it more fun. People like random.
People
Some
like
people
it.
obviously, some people have gambling problems.
Exactly.
Obviously.
They like it for a compulsive reason. They don't like it because like it's like woo zany fun wee.
Hmm.
Also, it's a difference between Overwatch, right, where you're gambling for cosmetics which you cannot trade, and Fate
Yeah.
Grand Order where you're gambling for a unit that will literally make it easier for you to fight to progress. Like
Yeah.
you're gambling for power versus gambling for accessories, like for
Yeah,
clothing.
I mentioned before, you can beat Fake Green without spending a penny and using like the basic stuff. And I think, as Core mentioned, as someone who plays the Gacha games, a simple act of summoning is many times way more satisfying than the game itself. Uh, yeah, I think so too. I think people have this inherent like interest in RNG, even if like without even being a problem. Okay, so here's kind of an embarrassing thing I did this last week. All right, I was playing Smash Brothers with my friend, right? I kicked their ass, obviously, because I'm fucking god at Smash Brothers, right? After we start playing Smash, after we finished playing our game, we both played Game and Watch, right? Mr. Game and Watch and Smash Brothers Melee. We literally took turns doing our B attack, our forward B attack, which is your hammer. It's a 1 to 9 random RNG. If you get 9, it one shots the enemy. Otherwise, it just does some damage, right? And we just literally took turns slapping each other with our hammer that was 1 to 9, purely to see the RNG in effect and see who's got quote unquote better RNG. We found that we did that like 3 times, and we had fun. People like RNG, even if there's like there's no gambling going on.
Okay, well that's fine. Every game has some kind of RNG
Yeah,
in terms of that.
it's people like that. So as somebody in the chat mentioned too,
for
they but summoning and doing the RNG is a fun part of the game. I think if you get rid of that, it does kind of detract from the game. I get the point though. If people have like compulsive gambling problems, we have to get those people away from gambling. The same way casinos do, right? Like if you have a problem, they should they should not take their bets. They should not allow somebody who has got a pattern of spending too much money to spend. Like maybe after you spend $1,000, maybe after you spend $500 on any mobile game or any PC game. Imagine you playing World of Warcraft. You buy transfers every week. You buy gender changes, name changes. After a certain threshold of spending $500, the game says, you know what? We need a proof of income. We need to know you can support your habit. At a certain point, they should say, listen, you got to show us that you can afford this. And if you can't, you get cut off. There's a hard limit of maybe X amount of money per month, and everything beyond that is cut off until you verify yourself. I think that would fix everything without getting rid of the gambling.
I think this is maybe it's an ideological difference between us, because I think the reason I'm for casinos and for gambling and for drinking alcohol or whatever is the logistics problem. It would cost more for the government to stop me from drinking this, right, than it would from the benefit that we as a society get from people not overdoing this. But if hypothetically we live in some kind of police state, 1984, everything is being snooped on, there's cameras in every single house, I'm okay with just banning casinos where the casino's a fixed house edge, because that's a no-win situation, and I'm okay with just totally banning that. The only reason I'm not for it today is because I think then you would have like underground casinos, people are going to go to loan sharks and get their head cut off. Like that's the side costs are what make me support it. So in a perfect world, I would just ban anyone from doing these gacha games, not just people who can't afford it.
I don't know. People have money to blow, let them blow it. I'm all for it. Wake up! It's already 1984. I would disagree too with your 1984 situation, because it's a bit silly, I think, to like you wouldn't ban like buying a candy bar at the store, right?
I would.
Yes,
that banned no, I would ban that.
In your world, in your ideal world,
yes,
alcohol's banned, candy's banned. Can I buy some milk at the store?
No, dairy's banned.
No, milk is banned too.
Dairy's banned.
Dairy's banned. What can I buy? What can I buy? Can I buy some Cheerios?
You can't buy anything. Every house will have a supplement of Soylent. It'd be like a goop from your sink. You get just a portion for your body mass index, right, and your nutrient profile. And then any amount that you, like, let's say you post on social media things that are anti-net government, then they would slowly cut back your daily ration. So your caloric deficit would force you to comply without even you realizing it, because you want more of that juicy Soylent.
Okay. So for the record, Altay, this is your ideal world, right? We're talking ideal, right?
This is Utopia.
This is Altay's Utopia.
This is Utopia.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think my Utopia would consist of many more waifus and other good stuff. I'm not sure why Altay's Utopia is very dystopian.
Well,
the point I was trying to make is like whether you're gambling in a game or you're gambling in a casino, like when you gamble in a fixed rate casino, like if you're playing like blackjack or craps, there's like a 2% house edge, right? But when you buy a candy bar at a store, there's like a 30% margin on that. So like you're getting more quote unquote ripped off at the store buying a candy bar than you are gambling $5, because the house edge on that $5 bet is literally 2%. That's gonna be like 10 cents, less than 10 cents.
But what are you buying? I don't understand. Like, what are you buying when you buy like a blackjack bet?
A chance to win more money. That's what you're buying. Yeah, fun. You're buying fun as well. Entertainment value. Yeah, why do people pay for Netflix? Entertainment. Why do people watch TV? Entertainment. People have entertainment playing blackjack.
You're gonna have a straight dopamine drip right in your living room. Okay, right to your electrodes to your brain. You're gonna get zapped with dopamine.
I like Grizzly's comment. One man's dystopia is another man's utopia. Grizzly, that is actually so true. Considering Altay is unironically telling us that his utopia is people. Everything is banned. You can only get Soylent. The government monitors everything. Every aspect of your life is monitored and controlled.
Well, I didn't say government monitor. My ideal world, everyone monitors everything. So, for example, there'd be a camera in my living room, in my bathroom, my bedroom, right?
Your bathroom too, nice.
Everywhere, yeah. And anybody, it's all public. Anybody can view anyone else's cameras, in any room. So everyone is spying on everyone, but you never know if anyone's watching you or not. So that's the thing. And you can watch the president. Like the president in his Oval Office, there'd be a camera, and anybody could tune in.
What would be the purpose of this?
It would keep everyone honest.
Nice. All right. Again, once again, this is Altay's Utopia. Don't get my waifu folder, Altay. I know you want it. Okay, interesting.
Well, and here's the thing: if you have a waifu folder, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're okay with anyone knowing you have it, I respect that. Go for it. Jack off the tentacle porn, right? But if you're trying to keep it secret from people, that means that's a problem, right? Then you have a neurosis, right? That's a problem.
Interesting, Altay.
So in my world, if the guy who wants to watch tentacle porn, he will do it right in front of his computer, jacking off in front of everyone. He will no shame, baby. He's good to go, and I'll respect that. But the guy who stops watching tentacle porn because he knows somebody could be watching, that guy shouldn't be watching it in the first place. Then,
so you gotta be committed. Is what you're trying to say?
Exactly. It would force commitment.
Interesting. And again, once again, I'm not sure why this falls under your utopia. Again, this is still an interesting environment you've painted for us.
Thank you. It's my my dream world.
All right, let's move on. What else we got out there? Got anything?
I got a funny story.
All right, let's hear the funny story. Let's get a little more lighthearted after your dystopian nonsense.
Well, you know what? This is actually a good segue because this, in my opinion, this is more dystopian than what I said. Okay, but this is reality, boys. So Seattle Police Department introduces system to prevent swatting, only in America. So as you guys might know, swatting is the case of making a false bomb threat or something and saying somebody's doing something wrong. So the SWAT team shows up at their house. Often people target streamers like this. And somebody actually literally died. So it's a SWAT team broke in. The guy's confused he's on his computer like, what's going on? He's probably turned around too quickly and the police shot him dead. Okay? So now you can it's kind of like the TSA pre-check at the airport. You can pre-register yourself in your address with the Seattle Police Department saying, hey, I stream video games for a living. And therefore, I might literally die to the police when they get called. The SWAT team gets called on me. So I'm giving you a pre-heads up that, this might happen to me. So if the SWAT team is called to my address, just know that it might be a false alarm. So please don't kill me at my house for no reason. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, this is more dystopian than what I just talked about earlier, because this is happening. This is real.
Yikes. At least there's a system for it now. All right, Altay. We just register on there if you're a streamer. Easy.
Or here's an idea. The American police could stop shooting everyone. There's a case in Germany. All the police in Germany collectively fired 50 rounds in 1 year. In America, in one city, in one case, one police officer probably fires more than 50 shots.
Fuck yeah,
it's
America.
Amazing. It's amazing that this is real in America.
Altay Runner 2024.
Oh, and Pistol is a longtime streamer, and she's saying this is something she actually has to contend with in the U.S. She tells the local police they're address swatting, etc., and it's just a real dilemma for her. It's amazing that this is. And here's the funny part: how quickly we've acclimated to this. The fact that this swatting and people dying from this in America is kind of like part of life now. And you accepted it, I accepted it, everyone accepted it. Mm-hmm. But this is more insane than my camera in every room, in my opinion.
I don't know about that, Altay.
I really think so.
Government rations of Soylent. If they post anti-government thoughts on social media, their little only source of food gets dwindled away to a deficit, and they start starving until they start posting good government things, and literally everything is monitored. I don't know about that, Altay.
Hold up. So that's one example, right? Cameras in all the rooms, dystopian Soylent, right? Now versus, I can literally pick this thing up, this iPhone. I can call 911. All right, I can talk. I can say a few words. I'm not gonna actually dial. I can say a few words into this thing, and I can have 12 guys in full military, machine gun gear show up at your house, boom your door down, like break it down, run and guns pointed, ready to shoot. Does the dog? Bam, he's dead. And you're next. Bam, you're dead. I can get that done with this phone in 5 seconds. That's dystopian.
It's fucked up. I don't think most instances of calling in a bomb threat or some other nonsense leads to people dying.
You're gonna be on the ground, just pissing yourself with when there's 8 guys with M4s in full riot gear.
Yes, but you're not gonna die.
That's
Your dog's
insane.
dead. I get that.
That's
the dog's
insane.
Gone.
That's insane. What I just
the dog's dead. I got it.
If you're
not gonna die.
You're not gonna die because you're white. But imagine you're a black guy. You know, you got like some drug paraphernalia around you. You know, you got like a vape or something, and you're holding your vape, right? You turn around because you hear the door. Boom, you're dead, baby. Headshot. Gone. Woo.
Woo. Yikes.
Yeah. So this is
obviously it's your fault for not reinforcing your door, like in when you're playing Rainbow Six Siege, right? Gotta reinforce that door. You can't get in, you know.
It's insane. I think that this is insane. That's what my dystopian world.
Interesting. Well, fortunately, I don't think many people die every year to swatting. It is obviously unfortunate that they can do that. But I think every country in the world, if you call in like some kind of bomb threat, you know, pretty serious, you know, measures are taken, you know. I don't know the process in other countries, but
what measures are taken?
I don't know.
I don't know, man. This is a uniquely American problem, I feel. Maybe like Yemen or Somalia. If you're streaming in Somalia, props to you.
Good for you. You know, good for you.
So Canaris linked me this article. U.S. police kill more in days than other countries do in years. Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay, here, England and Wales combined population is 57 million. 55 fatal police shootings in the last 24 years combined. In the U.S., 59 fatal shootings in 24 days.
Impressive.
The first 24 days of the year.
America, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is unfortunate, but I don't know.
Yeah, anyway, my only point was this is quite dystopian. So my dystopia is not that bad, all right?
I think your dystopia is still pretty bad. And our current situation is pretty fucked up too, obviously.
Nobody's dying in my dystopia.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's a fun conversation, okay? I saw this post on Reddit the other day, and I thought it was pretty amusing. Basically, about a month ago, everyone was complaining about Black Desert Online being pay to win, and everyone's quitting the game, right? That was like a kind of a pretty common like mood on our MMORPG for the game, and a lot of hardcore fans have been saying that they're done with the game with all the bullshit they're adding. The game's player base is up about 10% over that time period, where everyone quote unquote quit the game for pay to win. This tells us that people really don't care about pay to win. You know, Black Desert has done a lot of sketchy pay to win stuff. I mean, the game has like there's so much money you can pay for so many advantages in the game. Like currency in the game is like it's weird because like in World of Warcraft, you can pay infinite amount of real life money for infinite amount of currency, right? But the currency in the game can only take you so far, right? You can buy like the best buy non equipped gear in the game. It's like I'm level 350 or some shit, right? It's not gonna be enough to like completely carry the game. Whereas Black Desert Online, buying infinite amounts of silver in the game is enough to basically get you the best possible upgrades. Where silver plays a much stronger role in correlation with character strength in Black Desert than it does in World of Warcraft. And people are still playing. You know, it's not a problem for people. When people say they quit, but they end up, you know, sticking with the game.
Well, I think it reminds me of that chart we showed, I think, last week, where so there's a pie graph with the total player population, right? And then there was the percent that view the forums, right? Which was like 10%. And then the percent that post on the forums, which was like 1%. So the same case here. The people on Reddit and online in the community, Discord, etc., they're complaining about pay to win. Are a tiny percentage of the population.
Yeah, that's fair.
The noise to signal ratio is always off on these forums, especially.
But always, it still seems like people they're so vocal about like changes to pay to win. But I think at the end of the day, unfortunately, because we as everyone playing the game, nobody really takes this hard stance. You know, maybe one or two people will quit, but like other people just aren't going to quit playing a game because of the small changes. And it really does feel like a lot of games end up boiling the frog slowly. You know, if a game starts off very heavily pay to win, it's gonna, maybe people won't play from the get-go, right? Black Desert Online started off pretty decently, right? They said they weren't gonna do a lot of things. You couldn't pay for advantages across the board, right? And slowly they added things that were more pay to win. In fact, they added something to the game which they specifically said they removed from the English version because it was too pay to win, and it only exists in the Korean version because the Korean version was free to play. And they said because the American version costs money, they're not going to add this item because it's unfair, and they add that same exact item anyway. And they did all these things slowly to a point where it seems like people just kind of accept it rather than doing it all at once.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I think it's fine. It's whatever. Like, so like you said, Black Desert is a pay to buy to play game in the West, and I bet you of the that's like everyone who paid for the game, right?
Yep.
As a percentage, I bet you the majority don't even know what the store looks like. They never clicked into the store icon.
But most people don't spend any money.
Exactly.
After you buy the game, after you play, after you first make your initial purchase, the vast majority of players don't spend money.
Yeah. So if you're complaining about this, it already means you're kind of invested. So they know they got you. They got you. Like you're gonna buy that. You're gonna whine on the forums a little bit, but you're gonna buy.
So I looked at the chart, by the way, that we mentioned before about people that actually complain. This is actually a really good way to look at people that actually engage with the developer through their official forums. This was for Battlefield Heroes. So look at a tiny percent of players that actually post on the forums, and the vast majority of players that never share their views, which I think is also pretty interesting because a lot of people sometimes automatically assume whatever prevailing thought is on a forum or a subreddit is kind of like the prevailing thought for the entire game, which is actually very often not the case. So I think developers often don't do things that the forum will say to do, or the vocal player base will say, you got to do this, right? And they won't do that because I think for the most part, developers are working with more information as well. They realize that a lot of their players, vast majority of players will never engage in the forums. So they have to kind of intuit what they want without directly communicating with them. And it's very easy to think like, oh, the obvious choice was to do this. Why did developers not do this? Because just because people on the forums are bitching about it or yelling about it doesn't mean it's the only thing. And most people don't really. You never get a good gauge of the player base from what's being said on the forums.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, I think these stats roughly translate not just to official forums, but also things like Reddit,
subreddits,
subreddits, Discord chats, whatever it is. It's a good representation of roughly of the engagement on third-party sites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
everyone's pretty silly. I mean, it's still remarkable to me that the mobile version of Black Desert Online makes like twice as much money, 3 times as much money as the PC version. Whew.
I'm not surprised. I mean, consider the fact that the addressable market size is maybe 100 times.
I know, but we've seen so many mobile games like not every mobile game succeeds. We talk a lot about how like successful some mobile games are, but like so many are flops.
Oh yeah.
Nintendo launched a new one this last week. Something
really?
Lost, Regalia Lost. Have you heard about that one?
No, I never even heard about it.
It's a new. They said they actually worked on developing this. They did it with side games, but they also. I'm pretty sure the Nintendo developers actually worked on this one too. I think it's an original IP, and it just didn't do very well. It made $3 million in the first 5 days, trailing all the Nintendo's first releases.
Wow. Do you have a trailer or something? What's it called? Regalia?
Dragalia Lost. I think it's a single player game. Let me show you the numbers on this one. It might have a co-op elements that you've seen like a lot of gacha games and whatnot. So, but here's another question too: like, how do developers then understand what their player base wants? Because clearly you can't just listen to the vocal minority on forums. You always hear very certain views on forums, and from my experience, games don't really poll players. Like, and the games that try polling players, I know Blade and Soul try to ask their players all the time, like what they like, what they don't like. Most players just close that shit out. They don't want to do the polls anyway. So few players are actually trying to communicate what they want. Like, how do you actually gauge what your audience wants? I think the best way to do that is actually look at what they're doing in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why we've seen like every MMORPG get more casualized, right? Because they realize the percent of players that complete Savage content or Mythic content is so tiny that a lot of resources go towards developing other parts of the game beyond just raiding. Because they see players don't do that. Like adding more mounts, adding more like mid-tier dungeons, adding everything else but raids ends up being a better source of things for players to do. So obviously, I think it's still good to have the high-end raids, which is why they keep adding them. But all their resources aren't going there for a reason, and what's kind of annoying to one of my pet peeves is like a lot of people kind of assume like, oh, the developers are effing retarded, they didn't do this, right? And I always assume like it's weird for our perspective as gamers to like really call out a developer for doing something dumb because we never have the information they have, right? Because very often I don't think they're just acting so stupidly, right? Like a very indie company that makes one game, there's a staff like 4 people, yeah, they could make a lot of dumb mistakes, right? But like when a studio is like a multi-billion-dollar studio, they've made dozens of games before. They know how to run an MMO. Like generally, they're working with more data than we see as players. So for the most part, I almost always give companies the benefit of the doubt when they make a decision. And like, I'm gonna hope it's not brain dead retarded. It rarely is as brain dead, as people say it is. That makes sense.
Yeah, and actually, this is one of the main complaints I have with Path of Exile. I think they cater too much to their top 1% of players, but they keep adding this end game content. There's more like this weird builds and stuff. But the problem is, I feel like 80% of players don't finish the 10 act main quest.
Story, yeah.
Right, because and the pacing is so bad with the actual the 1 to like level 80 experience in Path of Exile. It's never gotten better. Like in the past, 5 years, I've been playing the game on and off. It's nonsense. What I do now is I wait like a month into the new act to the new league, and I get one of my friends to give me some charity welfare gear, like the
Hell yeah, get that welfare gear.
And then from level 1 to 80, right? I use like level 5 to 80. I use that charity gear without even without picking anything up, without I just speed through the content, and that the game really begins at 80. That's when like 90% of the new content opens up. But if they focused 10% of the effort they put into the end game into the base game, their player base I think could be 10 times what it is today. And I really hope that with Tencent's money in the next couple of years, they really put an emphasis on the new player experience and kind of make the progression more linear.
That's an interesting perspective, though. I do think games, and more RPGs especially, MMOs, should focus more on making the early and mid-game content more... Like, add new early game content, if that makes sense, right? Because MMORPGs need to grow, otherwise they die. Because there'll always be a natural rate of churn. People burn out of a game. If you stop attracting new players, the game is going to die. And people know MMORPGs are very unapproachable. And everyone, it's like a meme on RMMORPG. The game begins at end game. So it's weird that we don't really see a lot of new early game content, right? Like early game content is viewed as stale content. It's stuff that's like hasn't been touched in forever. And it's really weird when you keep piling on new content at the end without touching up anything at the beginning. It very quickly realized the pacing gets completely thrown off when they change the XP curves. You're way ahead of where you should be. There's no sense of difficulty. It screws up the entire early game process. Like they got to do something to spice up that early game by adding new content or new side missions or just something to do in the early game that's somewhat fun. Obviously easier said than done because no one's done it.
I actually think Final Fantasy is the worst at this.
The early game blows. Everyone knows the early game. Their lead producer says it blows. But early game.
But they're doubling down because in a lot of games, like you said, like in WoW, if you choose to level 1 to 120, as you level a lot faster than the content, right? So you can just skip it. Yeah. But at least you can skip it then. Whereas, you can't skip it. Exactly. There's a main storyline in Final Fantasy which you must do, right? And that gates how quickly you can do it, and it's just absurd. There's absolutely no reason for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's odd. It's very odd. And whereas World of Warcraft, Guild Wars, like all these other games give you a free level boost when new expansion launches, right? Mm-hmm. Final Fantasy doesn't do that. They want you to do all the story content. They want you to level up everything on its own, which is I think they'll lose a lot of players because of that.
Yes, I think so. I think it's very difficult to get a new player in.
But I think for every MMORPG is like that, but more so for Final Fantasy.
Yeah, they're the worst offender.
But what's the solution, though? How can we make that early game experience more engaging? Whereas right now it's a chore that you have to do before you can. Like, you can't have fun in Final Fantasy until you get to late game. I had some fun at the beginning, and there's some story. The story part is kind of cool. Like the story can carry it to a degree, but you need more than just the story. I have to feel invested in a way that it's weird because one of the most lingering feelings when playing an MMORPG, any MMORPG, is every player knows that any loot they get playing the game is until max level is utterly garbage. It is impossible to get useful gear or useful loot or anything of value before your max level in an MMORPG. That's one thing you got to fix. Make it so a new player who starts playing and does dungeons, does the quest, there's a small chance to get like a world drop for a cosmetic or something, right? Some kind of loot that like I don't even look at loot in Final Fantasy 14. When I'm doing like leveling dungeons or whatever, I don't even look at any of the loot that drops. I click skip on everything. I pass on everything without even looking at it. Because there is nothing that could possibly drop there of value. Whereas, at least like maybe in Path of Exile, one good thing about Path of Exile and Diablo games is you can find uniques that are actually valuable. In Path of Exile, you can find like those orbs, even from pretty early on, that are useful, right? You can actually get gear that's useful. You just can't in World of Warcraft. You cannot in Final Fantasy. You got to be able to get something in the early experience that keeps you on your toes. It looks forward to looting stuff, right? Because looting and collecting items is a fun part of an MMORPG, but it's all backloaded. It's all done at the end game. There's nothing in the early game for that, which I think is a big fundamental design problem.
Honestly, I think at this point, with a lot of these games like Final Fantasy and WoW, it's actually easier probably to make new content than renovate the old content.
Probably.
I'm not sure how it is in Final Fantasy, but in WoW, the old zones, the graphic quality, the attention to detail is much lower than the new zones, right? Which makes sense. Technology has moved a lot in 10, 20 years, 15 years. So a new player who wants to start at level 1, let's say, the world he is seeing, right, is a lower quality than the world of the new stuff available in 2018. So it's like a double whammy. You're punishing him for wanting to see the whole game, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I would rather them just burn it. I would literally want expansion to say something like, well, there was a giant like global warming and fucking Azeroth sunk. Okay, and
There's no more Goldshire.
yeah,
Stormwind's gone.
it's gone.
All the old shit's gone. You can't go there anymore.
It's literally
dead.
gone, and the only way to experience it would be like some kind of
Classic server or something.
a progression server or something,
Mhm.
and then that's it. That's it. I have really no other. I have no idea what they can do to just. The only time people go back in the old world now in WoW is like they do the transmog runs. They run like old content for a chance.
Yeah, to get the gear.
Yeah, but like they're intentionally doing like this low, graphically low quality, in terms of difficulty, low quality, like everything. It's just nonsense. It's just a bad way to, I think.
Yeah,
it's just bad. I don't know.
it's unfortunate, but somebody's got to get a good solution, and I don't know if it's whether burning everything or something else.
Global warming, sink it all.
Global warming, and the early game has got to be completely revamped to be actually fun. Because I didn't really start enjoying myself in Final Fantasy 14 till I got the end game.
Indeed. All right. Well, one other quick thing I want to talk about before I forget. So, this seems to be a graveyard of many tech companies, but Google is not quitting. Google is trying to do one of those streaming game things where you can play on your browser at like 4K resolution, and they're calling it Project Stream. So I'm gonna play a video here from the official Google YouTube account, and they're showing off the new Assassin's Creed Odyssey game, and they're saying you can play this game at 1080 at 60 FPS via Chrome. So on your Chrome browser, you can play this with these settings. And honestly, I've heard the song and dance so many times now. Every year we hear about a company trying this, and every year we hear another one shutting down and giving up. And I really don't think we're here yet. I don't think we can do this yet.
I mean, if Google is doing it now, before we've had a lot of shitty companies talking about this. I know Sony's been probably the biggest company that tried doing it with Gaikai, whatever it's called. But this is we've seen a lot of companies promise streamed gaming through browsers for a long time. I think if Google is behind it, it's good, and I think it's gonna be really good for if this ever catches on, it's gonna be really good for PC gaming. It will bring a lot more casuals into the fold for PC gaming.
I disagree, actually. I think if this actually works, it'll be the death of PC gaming, because then you could just have your PS4 under your TV, and if it can play everything for the next 20 years because it's just a browser, why would you need a PC? Right? Like
the problem is a lot of PC gamers have weak PCs and they can't play these games.
No,
and designing a PC game is still different than designing it. I mean, it would definitely eliminate the need for like PS4 and Xbox and Switch. It could all be one. You did different branded devices.
Well, you would just have like an Apple TV or one of those like Chromecasts, and then you would just never need to buy a PC.
Sure, but you have a mouse and keyboard. That's fine. You can still play the games however you want. Then I think it'd be good for gaming as a whole.
Oh, okay. For gaming as a whole, yes, but I think it would not be good for PC gaming because it would eliminate the need for a PC.
Yeah. If anyone could do it, as Valionin said, if anyone could do it, it's gonna be Google. They have a lot of money, a lot of muscle. They could potentially actually make it happen. We've seen this fail so many times, but they're doing it with a big budget game too, so it's interesting.
I am so jaded and cynical that I'm gonna call bullshit. Yes, Google is a big company with a big name, but they have so many failed projects under their name, and there's no reason to think this won't be another one. Google shuts down their projects every week. It's something Google's shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad they're trying it. I guess whatever tech they develop for this will be useful for the industry as a whole. But I am very skeptical that this will ever be a thing.
That's the pistol mentioned that there's gonna be some milliseconds of delay in between inputs and stuff. We've seen even like low latency streamers on Twitch. There's some noticeable input delay, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how that ends up working. It could be really wonky for multiplayer games. They could kind of compensate for that with single player games. I've played a couple of these games on single player through this kind of cloud gaming technology, and it feels like it works. We got to see it on
This is horseshit. All right. I'm gonna prove to you, everyone listening, if anyone thinks there's a remote chance of this working, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Let's hear it all.
Silver bullet. Load the revolver. All right, ready?
It's loaded.
Okay. How many times when you're using your cutting edge i7 1080 Ti computer, you have maybe 8 Chrome tabs open, and it just slows to a crawl, and you gotta restart Chrome or restart the computer?
Chrome does that shit all the time. There's memory leaks and stuff.
If Chrome cannot handle freaking 8 Reddit tabs open and maybe 1 YouTube tab open, right, without coming to a complete standstill once a day, what makes you think they're gonna stream this on top of the Reddit and YouTube video you got open? No chance. There's no chance.
I could definitely see crashes like that happening pretty often.
It's just gonna lag and destroy your computer.
I mean, there's a RAM problem because of the memory leak or something through Chrome.
Look, it's this or that. They're gonna blame something. All I know is Chrome can
It ain't
barely.
happening.
Chrome
Altay ain't buying it. Altay
Chrome
ain't buying
cannot
it.
keep a freaking subreddit tabs open. Okay, this ain't gonna fly. Let me tell you.
We'll see. We'll see. I hope it does, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. I hope I'm wrong. I have nothing to gain by being right here. I'm not like shorting Google here, so I hope I'm wrong.
I had a genius idea for another way for Square Enix to monetize, and World of Warcraft could maybe do this if they had housing. I'm pretty sure World of Warcraft they have those garrisons, right? But no actual housing. World of Warcraft, right?
They had garrisons, but they abandoned that. That was the last.
Yeah, that was a really shitty idea. Honestly, I saw them and it just never seemed like a good idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you have housing in the game, so think like Final Fantasy 14, like persistent housing, right? Well, they're in instance zones, but in those zones they're persistent, right? Bunch of houses in that area. Imagine in the cash shop for Final Fantasy 14, right? Or any MMORPG with persistent housing, right? You could buy an arcade machine. In that arcade machine, you buy Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah,
so you can place it in your house. How cool would that be? So
great.
anyone that walks by your guild house or your personal house can go on your arcade machine and play Final Fantasy 1, whatever game that the company that makes the game owns. Like obviously Elder Scrolls Online with their housing. Maybe you can buy like Elder Scrolls 1, or you can play Fallout 1 from an arcade machine. It costs like $20 to put it in your house in the game. Anyone that walks by can play it there on that arcade machine in the game. There will be houses with like every single arcade machine. People love like collecting games, right? And I could see everybody like buying like 5 different games just put in their house for decoration, even though nobody will ever see their house, right? Because like people don't look at all the houses; they just go to their friends' houses, right? In the game, so they can make a ton of money just selling arcade machines for all the old games they have.
And I think Animal Crossing did this, right? And I think in Animal Crossing, you could in your house you could have.
Yes, you can, yeah, I remember you put some basic mini games. That was like basically a single player game too.
Yeah, I know, but it's a cool concept. And I'm actually baffled that WoW doesn't allow this yet. When you right click a profile of somebody, there's like an option like invite to party, duel. Why isn't there an option called challenge to Hearthstone? And in the client, a literal window pops up because you're on the same Battle.net account anyway.
That's actually genius.
You can literally challenge somebody to Hearthstone.
Holy fuck, that's genius. Why have they done that?
I don't know. I really.
Both players have Hearthstone installed.
Yes.
That option should be available to everyone in the game. You click on it,
it's a shared account.
It's the game and you play.
It's a shared account. I don't see any reason why they can't do it tomorrow.
Little things like that, I think, would make it'd be such a good thing for MMORPGs too, because like just being able to like sometimes you're just waiting for something to happen, right? Waiting for everyone to come to a location.
Yeah.
You just play random people in Hearthstone in the game.
Yeah.
That's a fucking genius idea. Mind blown.
Like WoW Raid.
Stop me, Dad.
WoW raids literally take like 30 minutes sometimes. If you're just sitting around. Imagine you're sitting, you're waiting for everyone to come. You can literally challenge someone in front of you to a Hearthstone match, and people around you could like right click to inspect and watch. Like, oh man, play that card, yeah. It'd be amazing. No,
the problem is their card game. The card game would kind of suck.
Yeah. There are games like this with built-in card games. I know Final Fantasy has a built-in card game.
Yeah, you can challenge with like triple triad and stuff.
Yeah, so it's not a new idea, but it's just amazing how integrated Blizzard has it all ready to go. Right? They have Hearthstone. They have it all in one account. They have it in the same launcher. So it's the same universe. Like Hearthstone is the WoW universe. So it's just ready to go.
I like it. Make it happen. Altay for Blizzard CEO. All right.
Yeah. There you go.
Everyone buy one stock of Activision Blizzard and vote Altay as new CEO. All right? Make it happen, boys. It'll be a fluke. We'll write him in.
That's right. All the board seats go to us.
All right. With that, I think we go to the post game. Unless you got anything else, Altay?
No. We'll keep talking a bit in the post game. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. And
all right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Post game time.
Post game time, baby.